Tongkat is one of the safer supplements. There was one study out of, I believe, Indonesia that.
And then in terms of the side effects, that's something that we always discuss. So, is Tongkat Ali safe? What side effects could it cause, either indirect or by its direct mechanism of action? Those are things that we look at very carefully because we don't want to market something or tell people, oh, this medication or this supplement can never have any side effects because it's natural or because it's been tested by pharmaceutical companies. So what are some of those things?
Tongkat is one of the safer supplements. There was one study out of, I believe, Indonesia that looked at Malaysian Tongkat, so definitely a little bit of a bias there, conflict of interest, but there was concern about heavy metal content in the raw that came from Malaysia. So that's why a lot of companies will specifically state Indonesian source for their Tongkat. However, outside of that, the direct mechanisms of action, anytime you increase your androgen or your insulin, then you could potentially have more acne or more hair loss. But that's likely an insignificant effect because this is not going to make, in most people, it's not going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, so things like acne, hair loss, things that are thought of as being androgenic can certainly happen. There's always some non-specific effects. One that's actually noted in a couple of the trials is fatigue, and that's typically the first week of taking the supplement. Why exactly that's happening, it's not clear. It could be an effect on cortisol. You do tend to see those kind of balance each other out with higher testosterone. You see cortisol suppressed to some degree in some cases, but there's other things like upset stomach or dizziness or headache, and those really don't make a whole lot of sense with the mechanism, so they could be coincidental, or they could be one person's reaction to a substance or the uricominones in that supplement. So it's generally safe. It's been studied up to 6 months at fairly high doses, 600 to 800 milligrams. Don't see any kidney damage, liver damage, no changes to like your red blood cell count, things that you see with exogenous testosterone, for example.
Mm-hmm. Occasionally you will see different concentrations of Tongkat, and for different concentrations it's just harder to monitor like what the bioavailability would be, what the equivalent dosing would be. Occasionally we do use a different dosing, but sticking to the standard dosing in general is your best bet if you're trying to go by like the most commonly used study and the best evidence that you have available to you. Good rule of thumb for Tongkat is the less insulin and IGF-1 signaling you have. So if you're in a big caloric deficit, or if you're like a ketogenic dieter, or you just have lower insulin and IGF-1 at baseline, the more helpful it will be.